Welcome to the Sunday Slow Burn. Today we're going to be talking about fairies and the fae. What's happening, Dan?
What's up, Indy? How you doing, man?
Doing well, man. Been going deep into this rabbit hole. It'll be interesting to see what you guys have dug up in our research today.
Yeah. We're going to be doing Ireland and whatnot next year. We're going to get into the northwestern European Isles. So like Britain, Scotland, Ireland, and everything to do with that. The Renaissance, the Reformation, a bunch of fun stuff come up for RFTA for next year.
That sounds exciting. I like it.
Yeah,
I got
it's
some
gonna
stuff
be
from Ireland for today, and I got some stuff from the Norse, the Vikings, and I got some
excellent.
some Tuatha de Danaan, Danaan stuff as well. So I guess that's from Ireland, but it does expand out to a lot of other places too.
Yeah, so we'll be weaving all that stuff in together today, and then a lot of these topics we'll probably be talking about more so in the RFTA episodes that we do. We'll get deeper into it with people. And last week when we were talking about like wizards, Merlin and whatnot, a lot came up about the Tuatha de Danaan and how they were pretty much like the mages, but they were also like deified. So they became almost like the gods, and people seem to try to be either impersonating them or not necessarily like personal, but like trying to copy their swag or style to be more like them because they were deified in that way. And then so it's very interesting that maybe some of the gods are connected to these Tuatha de Danaan, and how the Tuatha de Danaan have been pretty much all over the world, even in the weirdest places you could think of.
Now, do you associate them with the Vikings?
I, in a way, but it's like way later.
Okay, because like
Vikings are like
Danaan is
600s or 700s, you know.
I consider them to be like really like big, like imposing, like tough guy brutes. But sometimes after this research, I think maybe they were a mix of some of them were like strong brutes, others were like really powerful sorcerers, and they were just a formidable race.
Yeah, I think it was similar to that too. It's interesting because like the Fomorians and the Firbolg are generally associated with like different super races, but like it's weird because in the stories they talk about them as having like darker hair or blonde hair, even some of them. The god Bress, who was half Tuatha de Danaan and half Fomorian, it was said that his dad had long blonde hair and he was a Fomorian and his mother was a Tuatha de Danaan. So it's because like from some things that I've heard, it comes across that the Fomorians are maybe a Afrocentric race and came from some other place because of the name Moor in the name of Fomorians. And so maybe they were, I'm not really sure, but it's really interesting. I think we'll get into some of that and some of like what they might have looked like when we do the RFTA episodes and whatnot. So
that'd be great.
That'll be interesting and fun to kind of break into that a little bit more and find out where these people come from, because it seems like they also shared Ireland. And then when we talk about the Milesians, that's like that's straight out of Egypt, man. So it's weird. Yeah. And the people associated with that group also have very biblical names, which is interesting.
Or something. So, homie, that's what's happening, brother.
Hey, good Sunday. Great day to be here. Great day to be to be jiving with the boys. I'm swept away by the depth of folklore that goes into all of this, and just trying to even talk about it in such a short amount of time is astounding, and it's quite a gig. But I'm stoked, man. Like I kind of got brought down this character called the Melusine, which I was like, oh, I've never heard of this, and then I start looking into the Melusine, and I'm like, oh, this is really quite a backbone of French folklore, Celtic folklore, even connecting to like the Nagas and stuff of the Vedic folklore. And then also found out that Melusine is in fact the Starbucks logo, and it's not Medusa. And the Melusine character just being one of the 3 daughters of this fairy who married the king of Albion, which was a part of like northern France that was Celtic, and so the kind of story of Melusine is almost like the story of Morgan in a way, and I will get into that later. Or Morgan or Morgaine. When like I'm pretty sure the Marigot, it's the same,
Morrigan.
is right.
Yeah.
Is it the same as Marigot and Morgan? Like they're the same. This is all of Morgan,
sure.
right? Yeah, I'm not sure because I was looking at it and I'm like, they spell it so many different ways and there's so many interpretations. But what I was really interested in, and like you were saying, we're going to go into the whole ancient Celtic month. So we just have a bunch of deep dive time. But there was, spots of Europe that held really strong Celtic roots, and like it wasn't just Ireland and northern parts of Europe. Like it was even like Eastern Europe and some parts in France and Spain, like these pockets of Celtic.
Spain.
Yeah. And I'm like, damn, that's kind of blew my mind, So starting to think about, this very mystical culture that held a lot of mystical things, value their society. It's so cool. We love the mystic beings and the supernatural spiritual goodness here, and the entities and the elementals. They were all the elementals. And I definitely have some Manly P. Hall to get into later, because I think it's a great thing to bring up when we're talking about fairies and stuff. So, but we go from here. What's the deal? What are we jiving on? How are we going to start? How are we going to shake this off? Do we got some etymology or something? Like what?
I got some etymology.
I do.
Let's break down what fairies are.
All right. So this interestingly ties back to a French word that goes all the way back to Latin and Proto-European, but I didn't really see too much information from the French, a little bit from the Spanish, but the French word that it goes back to is Fae, F-A-E. That originates in the Old French, and that ties back to Fata, which means the fates in Latin, which comes from the original Ba, which comes from the Proto-Indo-European root word. But after it becomes Fae in French, it then becomes fairy. And originally the word fairy in the Middle English meant that it was the country or home of supernatural or legendary creatures. So the word fairy meant what we call fairyland today, or what the Fae originally represented, which was the land of the fairies, meeting of fairies, enchantment, magic, witchcraft, or sorcery. So it had a more wider range of definition in the original Old French. And then after modern English becoming fairy, F-A-E-R-I-E, it later turned into the modern fairy, F-A-I-R-Y, mythical being of folklore and romance, usually having a diminutive form and magical powers. Diminutive, I believe, just means small bodied. But it's fascinating how it kind of went to the understanding of paranormal or supernatural beings, and then it went to becoming like a fictional word. It means like a fictional thing now in modern society. But I feel like we've really kind of just lost track of this, that there's been a lot of talk about this throughout history in many cultures, that there's another realm that resides alongside us. And it's not just the Irish and the Norse or the Europeans. This goes all around the world. And so there's a good chance that now that we're kind of stuck in the materialist worldview right now, we've kind of fallen away from the energetic field of vision, seeing things in different realms right amongst us, like the Aborigines considered dream time. But I have a list of the different qualifications of what a fae or a fairy could be. And a lot of people just associate them all as being a pixie, right? The little flying things, little tiny flying cute little creatures. But now it could range from anything. The fae could mean a goblin, elf, gnome, pixies, dwarves, sprites, brownies, changelings, vampires, and even trolls or a mandrake. But there's also other names that you probably have never heard before that they were also referred to as gnolls, ghostwise halflings, lightfoot halflings, wild dwarves, ariels, banshees, salamanders, cottonfly and snowfly, murrian, selkie, vadyanoi, canog, nuclevi, usage, and ethnici. But there's many different variations of what a fairy is. And so just want to get that out of the way. It's not always just going to be a pixie, although we do refer to that now. I think we have that understanding and interpretation of it. Welcome to the show, Morgan. How are you doing this evening?
What's up, Morgan? How's it going, babe?
I don't know
think
if
she might be froze.
Froze, yeah. Well, we'll hear from her. So have you guys heard any of those other things I listed in that second list?
I thought the mandrake take is really interesting. I mean, that goes into amount of magical workings and spell things, and specifically mandrake root is caused from the droppings of bodily fluids after a person has been hung or crucified. That's how a mandrake root is generally thought to have been brought into the world, because their excrements will fall from the body after it's been brought into extremes, and then those special fluids and excrements, they'll go into the soil and make the mandrake root, and then you go dig up the root and use it for your magical working. So I mean, I guess it makes sense. I mean, yeah, that is pretty interesting. And there, it's like a body in the earth, which is kind of like a cross correlation that happens a lot, especially in Northern Europe, believing in the fairies and the gnomes of the hills and giving them offerings and things. Mandrake root, the root of man. Yeah. Super fascinating, bro.
Yeah, the mandrake is fascinating. It definitely has like an anthropomorphic form to it. It looks like a human with like 2 little legs and 2 arms sometimes, which is fascinating. I know there's actually a movie about it, but I know that it was also used for abortions or something. They used mandrake, I think, as kind of a medicine. The witches did.
Wow. Yeah, I think there's a lot more to mandrake that I had known not about. I mean, I first heard about it, in Harry Potter, right? They had it in Harry Potter, and I was like, oh, mandrake, and they made it cute. But then I heard about it looking up voodoo, history of voodoo and hoodoo and vodoom and things. And I was like, and they use mandrake root a lot in that, which, like I said earlier, of just how the mandrake is thought to be created through the excrements of a hung person, and kind of like going into the magical workings of the South and things, like start getting into a lot more esoteric territory when you're rolling around that stuff, man. So
yeah, I could see why they're associated with death. It kind of had a sinister beginnings, but they've kind of made it all cartoony now. Cute little mandrake.
Yeah. All right, you're sharing my screen. I'll go into this article here. Meetings of the Queen with the Queen of Elfame, a magical and protective fairy queen, by Natalia Klimziak from the Ancient Origins websites. Fairies are common beings in European folklore, perhaps even since pre-Roman times. They are known in most cultures and in different regions around the world. Many legends say that the fairies' leader is a mysterious queen who wisely ruled all of fairyland. There are at least a few well-known goddesses that have been linked to fairies. One of them was the famous Queen Morrigan. Another one was Danu, a Celtic mother. But the most mysterious of the supposed fairy rulers are arguably the Queen of Elfame, who may be associated with the Scottish goddess Nicknevin. In Scottish and Northern British folklore, the name Queen of Elfame means Queen of Fairyland. It is unknown when she appeared in history or legends for the first time, but she has been mentioned in several old folk stories and also in documents of witch trials. Legendary meetings with the Queen of Elfame. It is not easy to find resources describing the Queen of Elfame. She did, however, appear in the legend of Thomas the Rhymer. He was said to be a laird and sort of a local prophet who lived in the borders region of Scotland. The tale described a man who was helped by the Queen of Elfame and returned from his time with her with the gift of prophecy. In one version of this text, the mythical being is the Queen of the Nameless Kingdom. In the translation of Thomas the Rhymer by Robert Grave, the Queen says, "I am not the Queen of Heaven, Thomas. That name does not belong to me. I am the Queen of fair Elfame, come out to hunt in my folly." The Queen of Elfame appeared in many witchcraft trials. For example, she was linked to one in 1597 when Andrew Mann was accused of practicing magic. During his confession, he claimed to have had an intimate relationship with the Queen of Elfame. According to his testimony, for more than 30 years, he had been making love and learning from the leader of the fairies. Andrew Mann said that he had several children with the Queen and she had granted him with gifts of knowledge and healing. Moreover, according to the legend based on the previously described ballad of Thomas the Rhymer, he claimed that he was also kidnapped by the Queen to have a sexual affair with her. Dun dun dun.
Wild.
The best.
The figure reportedly used to meet with women as well. It is said, for example, that she appeared in front of two women who were believed to be witches, Bessie Dunlap and Isabel Gowdy. Bessie claimed that the Queen of Elfame came to her for the first time when she was in labor. According to both women, the Queen visited them many times. She reportedly taught them how to heal people and animals. The legend of the fairy Queen became an inspiration for many famous artists and writers. This character appeared in plays by Shakespeare and his followers. All of the fairies they presented in their texts may be associated with the Queen of Elfame, the goddess who ruled fairyland. The Scottish Queen of Elfame reminds me of the Norse Freya and her attributes. She is associated with magic, childbirth, and healing. This goddess has been described as a young and beautiful woman who could steal the heart of a man. Nonetheless, the Queen of Elfame is probably based on the goddess Nicknevin, who also known as Nicknevin or Nicknevin. Her name means the daughter of the divine. Nicknevin is a protected deity whose feast was connected with autumn celebrations, especially Samhain. In Celtic legends, she was able to communicate with the spirits of the dead and was related to witchcraft and magic. The goddess was one of the inspirational deities in the Druid traditions as well. She was believed to provide wisdom and magic ability.
Wow, yeah, I think Samhain is like a really good example of fairy realm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very well integrated into that holiday. And that's a Wiccan holiday, right?
It's like Wiccan is like New Age.
That's true.
It's an old holiday. Samhain, yeah, or Samhain.
Samhain. Heard it that way too. I think that's the older way, probably. So I got some background on some mythology and some folklore over here, so we can get like a good picture of how the understanding has progressed throughout the ages. The views concerning fairies has morphed and developed over time and by region. The early pre-Christian Europeans, these beings likely originated as lesser spirits or deities, and as Christianity spread, the beings were demoted to their either being a race that lived parallel to humanity or demonic entities. Post-Enlightenment believed in fairies dramatically decreased. Even so, beliefs in fairies still lingers in the small, isolated communities in the modern New Age and neo-pagan movements. They gained popularity in the Anglophone world beginning in the 1960s. They can have a wide variety of forms, as we went over earlier, in European folklore and literature. Some fairies were beautiful and graceful, whereas others were hideous to look upon. As we'll go over later, there's two courts. There's the Seelie court and the Unseelie court. The Seelie courts were the benevolent ones that were good looking and would help humanity, whereas the Unseelie court were usually the hard to look at, sinister ones that usually lived in the dark. The Unseelie court's associated with fall and winter, and the Seelie court is associated with spring and summer. So they have like a lot of symbolic aspects to them. Now let's see. In modern times, the fairy is most commonly described as beautiful, feminine-looking fairies that tend to have wings of a butterfly or fly insect, while other beings traditionally thought of types of fairies that don't match this description tend to go by more specific names, which we went over a few of. I've done a little research on the banshees and the changelings. If we can go over some of that at some point.
Yeah. I want to get into, well, because I think what we're talking about here, you know, it's hard to like lock down exactly what a fairy is when we're talking about the Fae, which is a magical realm, and the beings that exist within the magical realm. You know, we're not talking about Tinkerbell over here, you know, but we did want to kind of like get into what I had the idea of this show being, because next week we were going to do like leprechauns, or more of like the masculine side of creatures and lore of, you know, what the Fae realm. And this week is kind of like being the more feminine aspects of that. So, which a lot of times ties into, you know, fairies, and like what people consider fairies to be is like a small winged woman, you know, like flying around and with pixie dust and stuff. But you know, there are this Paracelsus, I think, was the first person to truly break down like these esoteric elementals, like these. He put the elementals into a of saying like there's these creatures that exist within this realm, this elemental realm, and they are defined by their geographical location. They're defined by their archetype, and they're defined by by the workings that you and intention that you have, because there's 6 elementals: earth, water, air, fire, and then light and dark. And the light and dark is where you start to get into like the intention behind it. You know, it's like, okay, are we going to tap into the light side of air? We're going to tap into the dark side of air. We're going to tap into the light side of water or the dark side of water, to kind of bring that energy there. And then there's all the talk of the inner Fae wars, or the inner wars of like these realms. Like if these elements are against each other inside the Fae realm, and we're only like experiencing it outside of our realm. And so there's so many things to get into, but I did kind of have the idea of like trying to stick to more of the feminine side of the Fae realm for this week. Cool. And then next week kind of tapping over, but obviously there's going to be crossover, and we, you know, all that goodness. And but definitely getting into the Tuatha De Danaan today, like abso-fucking-lutely. Hello, Steen. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, yo, thanks. Good to be here.
Cool. Yeah, so the banshee is definitely one of the feminine types of fairies. Fae. We could talk about a little bit about the banshee. The banshees were known to have been seen as somewhat of a ghost. They were thought to be warning people of death and of alerting people to death in their family in old Ireland. They would do this thing called keening, which was kind of a grieving kind of you could call it a song, but it was more of a scream. They would let out their pain, at the funeral to release it, and they were thought to have been represented women that became ghosts that had had a terrible death. And so, but they were not considered to be malevolent. They were thought to be of service, trying to help people, let them know that someone they're close to had died before they got word, so they could prepare. Although they were hard to look at for people, and they let out that shrieking cry.
Yeah, banshees are bad news. My fiance is very much into Irish and Celtic mythology, Celtic paganism. So that's why I jumped in. She's very much connected to the Fae and Fae folk. But banshees, I do believe they are. I'm not sure if they are like actually malevolent, but they're not good news. Like you don't want to encounter one.
They only give you bad news, but it's said that they wouldn't try to hurt people. Although I think their shrieks probably did hurt your ears. Headache.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, the shrieks from the other world.
Horrifying. Yeah. Harbingers. Bad news. But yeah, the understandings of banshees have obviously changed throughout like time over since ancient Ireland up until modern day. They've kind of been probably more demonized to a degree.
As have pretty much all the old mythological creatures.
Mm-hmm. I just started that show, American Gods. Like someone, or a lot of people have recommended it, and then I started it a couple days ago just to check it out, and I was like absolutely captivated because the concept of it is so spot on. Like we are the same. We're within the same realm. We're within the same earth. We're within the same breath of life as our ancestors, and we are worshiping completely opposing ends of deities at this point. And so like I loved that they had like these, like obviously the author is incredibly well depth in all of these stories, and Brett did such a great job at like kind of explaining what we're involved in our current society. Like they did such a good job at that. And I'm just getting through that show, and it's funny because like the more, and I just also, and I'm only doing this because it's harvest season here on the farm where I'm watching a lot more television and stuff. But like I just also finished the show True Blood, which had vampires and fairy and werewolves and all these things that we had also been talking about on the podcast. But apparently the media has been dick hard on talking about the magical realm for so long, and they're bringing up a lot of really occult aspects in a lot of these shows, and the writers that write the actual books that the shows are based off of have incredible, awesome esoteric knowledge, and they imbue it upon their art, and I'm just now discovering it. So I'm like a kid in a candy shop right now with all these like awesome shows and books and stuff. I'm like, damn it, dude, like I have so much research ahead of me. But I do love the elementals, man, and I love the Fae folk. And welcoming someone else to this beautiful stream, the slow burn. We have Mark. What's happening, brother?
Naughty Roman, what's up, brother? You invited me. Invited me, and then I was 40 minutes in. I'm like, where's the invite? I thought I was gonna talk about fairies. What's up, Dan? What's up, Indy?
What up?
Happening.
I don't know how to pronounce your name, brother, but nice to meet you. And Roman, hello, of course.
What's up? Welcome, brother. Yeah, I know. I've been slacking today. Yet Sundays always end up being like I get so deep down a rabbit hole like last minute that I'm just like doing.
It's all right.
So
it's
much,
the slow
so much
burn.
happening.
You slow
Yeah.
burn invite tonight. It's okay. I don't mind.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, man.
Well,
Well,
I will say, I could jump in real quick. I just talked to Joshua Cutchin, who wrote a couple books on fairies. So I feel like I'm a little bit primed up for this topic if we're going to get into it. But don't let me jump in too soon.
Jump in right now, man. Tell us about the book. Tell us about Cutchin. Oh, and also welcome, Morgan. Hello.
Hi.
The Fae has entered the realm.
Yes, sir.
Right on. Hello. Well, the book you asked me to describe is called Ecology of Souls. And what's interesting about Joshua Cutchin particularly is his first book that he was well known for was dealing with Bigfoot and the connection between Bigfoot lore and fairies and UFOs. So this book deals more with the connection between human souls, fairies, and sort of ceremonial landscape aspects like fairy circles, corpse roads, and a bunch of other really interesting concepts. And what's cool about Joshua is he's not like conclusively going after one thesis. He's like kind of showing you everything that's going on. You know, he paints a really broad picture and puts a lot of different cultural myths side by side to show you how this type of thing is human and not, you know, because of one culture, right? And he gives you examples of like things that may be interpreted as fairies, although they don't go by that name, in the oceanic cultures, in the Aboriginal cultures, in South America, in North America, and of course Europe and all of Asia. So it's really fascinating stuff. Psychopomps was another concept that's kind of blended in because what happened
Nice.
in a lot of European cultures where fairies were present during the dying process, right? So sometimes people would see fairies after their loved one would pass away, or maybe even someone would see fairies before they died as a sort of omen. So it wasn't always like a good, sparkly, like Disney type of thing. Sometimes fairies were like, you know, very like, okay, I just saw a fairy, I'm in bad, you know, something bad's about to happen, right? So there's a whole nother dimension to a lot of these myths and folklore aspects that we don't get because of the pop culture Disneyfication of all of this stuff, you know.
That's why I was bringing up earlier the six elementals instead of like the four, where people are like undines, sprites, you know, gnomes, and all these. There's the light and the dark aspect, which goes into each of the four, and you know, and like even just like the case of the leprechaun, you know, like you know, it's like the good luck, the bad luck, you know, what is it going to be, and both undulating energies and archetypes that are within within all realms, man. You know, the light and the dark. You never know what you're gonna get. You got to keep karma's real, though. I'm definitely finding that out day by day. No more throwing plastic into the wilderness. Kidding, I've never done that. I'm a clean boy. I'm just saying things now. What Morgan, hello. What you got some juice for us? Dan said you might have
going off
sweet
of
cake.
what you're saying, I mean, like with Morgan Le Fay, or you know, that's like pretty much the most popular fairy that I know of. But they like correlate her to the Morgan, and it's like somebody that you see before you're about to die, or like someone like she comes upon you when you ask for something as well. So it's like, if in astrology I would relate it to Lilith. Basically, like, you know, your dark side. I mean, you gotta be careful what you ask for because you're gonna get it. So basically, you know, there is a light and a dark side to exactly what you're saying. It's just, what are you putting out there, I guess.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving us a little more on Morgan Le Fay.
Oh, there's so much on her. And like, she's the high priestess of the Ninefold Sisterhood, which is like basically it's a tribe of Morgan. So okay, so there's the artisan, there is the lore keeper, there is the law keeper, the emissary, and the hearth keeper. So like each, you know, archetype of a Morgan has their role in society, basically, or like in life, like what they're doing. So yeah, there's actually so much on her that, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, because you could think of her as a goddess, as a person, you know, in mythos, especially Celtic or, you know, Welsh mythology. But like I said, in astrology, she's Lilith. And then, you know, her muses. Yes, there she is right there.
Oh wow, look at okay, let's break down this picture just for a second. Let's see what we got going on here.
Snakes.
Look at that. Look at those symbols on her dress there. And the jaguar chain pelt.
Yeah.
Leopard.
Yeah.
She is like the high priestess of all priestesses. I mean, she literally was Merlin's and you know, if you want to talk Arthurian legend, she was Merlin's apprentice. So then she surpassed Merlin. So
Wow.
then a lot of drama comes with that. I mean, some people say she's Arthur's sister. I mean, basically, she is the bard that carried him when he died to the Isle of Avalon, which is known as the Isle of the Apples. And there they, you know, still live, apparently.
Wow.
In a cloud in the Red Sea.
So she carried him to Avalon when he died, or he survived?
Well, to keep him alive, because she knows every type of like medicine out there. I mean, you have to remember, she surpassed Merlin when it comes to necromancy stuff. It just literally, yes. So every
resurrected him.
Yeah, because in the legend, with the Excalibur, it is supposed to be the protector, the healer. Like, you can't have anything bad happen to you if you are in possession of it. And he gave it to her. That's Guinevere. Okay, that's Guinevere, and that's Morgan Le Fay. And that is Guinevere's cousin, I think.
Oh my god.
So she gets it. It's so dramatic, and you know how they were back then. But you know what I mean.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, playing with the elementals right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This actually reminds me a lot of the story that you have in the more Germanic paganism, Norse paganism of Idun and the golden apples, because that's where the gods are said to get their power and their immortality from.
Yeah, Odin eating the golden apples.
And that sounds like the Philosopher's Stone, right?
Kind of does, yeah.
It also sounds like apples is like a source of knowledge, or knowing, and also immortality. So, like the island of Avalon or the island of apples would have a correlation to like the land of knowledge or the island of knowledge.
It's symbolic. I'm wondering if it's like actual physical or what. I mean, what do the druids hold sacred on the apple tree? I wonder, because they are definitely a mystical deep down the tree rabbit hole. So I'm wondering what the druids say about the apple tree. I'm gonna, I guess, do some quick.
What do they have? I think 2 letters in their alphabet, the Ogham language, and each one represents a tree. So there's a good chance one of them represents the apple.
All right, let's check it out.
That they have an understanding of
it. It's called I'm getting my book out so I don't like tell any wrong information, you know. But going through that whole, you know, first you part the mist, and then, you know, it's about retrieving your sword. It's the Oracle deck I go by a lot of the time because I'm a huge Celtic Welsh mythology fan. But in this book, it says, so like it's the 5 seeds of wisdom right here. Oh, sorry, I hurt my computer.
You cut it open and you see the 5 pointed star.
The 5 seeds of wisdom.
Nice.
So like when you slice an apple in half, a 5-pointed star is revealed, which I correlate that with Venus, you know.
Star, morning star.
Yeah. But it says it's a symbol of wisdom across time and cultures. The apple
Nice.
is often most associated with the divine feminine. And we
Mhm.
see in Celtic rituals and culture that the island of apples is one of the names for the blessed isle of the other world. So here the dead dwell blissfully at rest in a place that produced everything of its own accord. Avalon itself is named for the three apple trees that are said to flourish in abundance on her shores. Deriving from the Welsh name Ons Avalon, the island of apples, Avalon is also an island of healing, attended by a ninefold sisterhood skilled in the sight and in the curative arts. Basically, it's just like knowing, I guess, after you go through the process. It's knowing.
Excellent.
And interestingly, when you cut an apple in half, there's two 5-sided stars. And in the Ogham or Ogham alphabet of the Druids, it is the 10th letter known as Quirt, representing the apple tree. And they say that, let's see, it stands for the crab apple tree and is associated with immortality, vision, and wholeness. And the letter Q, non-existent in Old Irish, and the Quirt has been interpreted to mean hound or wolf, and synonym for warrior.
Yeah.
I got one here. Apple as a gateway to the world. And another legend from the Huron tribe, the world is divided into two parts. One part is the sky world, where the people lived, and the second world is the lower world, which all was water, where the animals lived. A girl who lived in the sky world was tired and went to take a nap underneath an apple tree. A hole appeared under the tree, and she fell through along with the apple tree to the lower world below. She is caught by two swans, and then a big turtle brings all of the animals together. They decide to bring the soil up from the depths of the water to create an island for her to live on. This doesn't work so well, but eventually the animals spread seeds and dirt onto the turtle's back, and the girl lives there now. The world rests on the big turtle's back, which is why this land is called Turtle Island. And you have apple as a gateway, like her sister, the hawthorn. Apple trees can be gateways to other realms and experiences. The holes that open in the ground, the apple as a key to the castle. The sleeping person under the apple tree is transported to a new place. An apple offers us these journeys and experiences in a much more gentle way than the hawthorn tree. I think I might be
Mark
mistaken,
wants you to
but
share a screen.
okay. Here we go. What's the movie with the rabbit and Cinderella and the lady in the blue dress?
Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah, is there an apple in that one? Is that a thing?
No. You're thinking of Sleeping Beauty.
That is Sleeping
Or,
Beauty. Okay. I got my little cartoon.
Snow White.
Yeah.
Makes me think of
That's what it is.
Johnny Appleseed.
That story is on here, and it has let me see. But it goes into where Johnny Appleseed came from. John Eastman in Field and Forest has much to share about the apple tree. He notes, as any wild food forager will attest, that commercially grown apples are grafted and carefully managed. These growing in the wilds are much wider variety. Oh, that's one thing that's interesting about the seeds, I'll say, is each seed inside the apple is a different strain of apple than the apple it came from. So no apple seed inside that apple is the actual strain of apple that apple is. Apparently they're all different.
Really?
So like, yeah, you'll get a red apple and all be different apple seeds inside of that.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
Wild.
when you
Divination?
What's that?
You ever heard of apple divination? That's when because of what you just said, because all apples have this kind of like random pattern, you can cut open an apple and use it as like a divination tool. There's an old New England practice of doing that. I'm trying to find the page here.
I wonder if there's a relation between the colors of the apples and like the planetary correlation, or like the mineral makeup in the apple that has like, like a composition of the minerals that creates the color. Because I know sugar itself, even though the inside is all apple color, but like the different colors of sugar that you get with fruit sugar they taste like that color because it's a literal different sugar, which means it's a different composite or different makeup. So like a yellow pineapple has that specific yellow fruit sugar, and it tastes like the color yellow. And then red tastes like blue. You know what I'm saying? So I wonder if there's something that aligns to food magic, herbology, the correlation to the color spectrum and the planets when you're doing like. So one other thing I wanted to say is like the fairy ring. The fairy ring is, you know, like a classic circle of mushrooms in the ground or what have you. And, you know, you said that you need to make a circle in order to enact your magical spells, in order to encapsulate that, right? Like creating a Merkaba or a mandala on the ground, or when you're creating your sigil for doing your pentagrams and whatnot. But I wonder if when you find a fairy ring, that's where somebody had done or opened a portal at some time prior, and there was maybe something like maybe that's where a spell had been done. You know,
Yeah.
You know how people all sit in a circle to pass the Ducci on the left hand side to get high.
Yes,
you know?
I
think they're doing I think they're doing the same thing with mushrooms, dude. I think they're sitting in a fairy circle and they're eating mushrooms and they're tripping out together.
That's so cool.
Or like taking or drinking a concoction, you know, like in the Native Americans, they have like some type of concoction brewing, and you all sit in a circle and you pass it around to everybody, and you all drink it. It's I think it's somewhat the same type of idea. Is they're creating a circle, and they're all connected, and they're having this trip all together.
kind of reminds me of absinthe a little bit. I like this
Like
one.
that's
Mark.
how they're going to fairyland, you know?
Yeah.
That's how they go to fairyland.
According to Celtic myth, the fairy rings are caused by the fairies and elves dancing around in a circle at night.
Yeah, see?
Oh, love it.
I don't know if
Oh,
anyone
man.
Like to hang
feels
out.
this way, but the music that you're playing in the back, I feel like we're in an elevator. Does anyone else feel like that?
I can't hear.
Am I
You're like,
hearing- am I-
when
am
are
I
we
the
gonna
only one
land on
hearing
the fucking floor? Just get there, dude.
You're-
They don't have a 13th floor, dude. They don't have a 13th floor here. You'll never get there. You have to fucking make the fairy ring and pop that vessel, baby. Yo, Steen, bro,
I do
where you
have
live
some,
at? Where do you live at, brother?
Yeah, man.
Oh, couldn't hear you. From the Netherlands.
Can't
Okay,
hear you.
so what's? Oh yeah. Okay,
I
I
think
didn't know if that was just
your
weird.
mic might not be connected, brother, because we heard you very, very faintly. Yeah, those apples though, you
Oh.
cut them in half, and based on how many seeds you find, that's the divination thing I was talking about before. But
Oh,
Oh.
yeah,
Do they have to be picked off a tree, or can you go buy them?
no, I don't think that matters at all. I mean,
Okay.
some apples that you get in the store, I don't think have seeds in them. I don't know. I think some apples don't, but that might be an indication you're getting a GMO apple.
Well, obviously.
and what's the spell you're gonna crack when you crack open a seedless apple? I bet that's
Yeah,
some,
that's
like
scary.
suck your
Yeah.
soul away a little bit.
In there,
Yeah.
or how you tell the seeds apart.
Yeah.
Maybe you can read the colors before they sprout or something.
You know,
Hmm.
but seeds themselves, I've been trying to find more like if there is any like antiquated writings on like seeds and beans. I watched this video of like there was like a bean ritual across the world, like in the ancient Lemuria,
Like
the
Jack the
holiday.
Magic Beanstalk, and how Jack plants a magic bean and then it takes him up
Yes.
through the 7 layers. Like he goes to the
Yes.
highest dimension where the gods are and then comes back down. You know, that's a symbol of the vegetable body, right? Because we're comprised of physical, you know, on the physical level, an animal, a vegetable, and a mineral. In alchemy, it's considered vegetable, mineral, and animal, right? So your flesh and your blood, that's your animal part. The bones, the iron in your blood, that's your mineral. And then your neurons, the electricity of your body, that's your plant side. So people in ancient times considered your soul body like your plant body, because just like plants communicate with each other telekinetically, we have that aspect of ourselves, right? So some texts even say that way back, human beings actually came off of a tree in the Garden of Eden, and we were like, in a proto form of humanity, more vegetable than we were animal, right? That's the really mystical history that goes into theosophy, though, which you can't always trust what they say because they claim to talk to aliens. But either way, it's Jack and the Beanstalk.
What about the Princess and the Pea? Also, like she, like
I don't know that one.
Yeah,
James and the Giant Peach.
That one too. Yes.
I got actually one on a Fae, an apple tail that goes back to Irish. The medieval Irish story Conla the Fair, an Irish prince, fell in love with a beautiful fairy woman, and who arrived on the Irish shore in a crystal boat. She offered him an apple from the world of Faery, and he took the fatal bite and was hers forever. They set sail for her magic island, where the trees bore both fruit and blossom, and the winter never came. There they ate an ever-replenishing stock of apples, which kept them forever young. An otherworldly apple tree magically makes music, which can dispel all want or foe or woe or weariness of the soul. In Irish lore, the god Ongus offered 3 miraculous apple trees from the magical woods, Bruig na Boing New Grange, as a wedding gift from the one of the Milesians. One was in full bloom, one shedding its blossoms, and one was in fruit. The deliberate felling of an apple tree was punishable by death in ancient Irish law. It's considered to be the noblest tree of all. Symbolizes
Dude, that reminds me.
I mean, there are so many stories about, taking a bite from an apple and it being fatal, or, being cursed or whatever, just the story of Adam and Eve, Snow White. Now this story, there has to be something to it. I mean, this is not like, it's weird. And like the apple, it's a very, very feminine fruit as well. Like if you cut it in half, look at it. What does it represent? So, yeah, exactly. And then like with the seeds, that's the masculine part. Then again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the vegetable body being like the telepathic and the psychic part, because when you go and do like more ceremonial psychedelics, a lot of times you want to have a very clean vegetarian diet before going into that, not having any meat, so not really connecting with the mineral side of things, but connecting only with the psychic side of things. And so I think that's a large part of this, like when, especially like a lot of the stories of the fairy and the fae, like is coming out of the land, like they're coming out of the hillside, coming out of that vegetation, of the grass, or like being a part of the trees, and trees being ancient psychics. If we're talking the plants being psychic and talking on a telekinetic level, I feel like trees are the master communicators, and they hold down the realm. And especially out here in the redwoods in Northern California,
they do for sure.
We can't leave out probably the most influential myth of apples. I dare call it a myth, the Garden of Eden and the apple, the forbidden fruit, right? So, and I think that comes from an Egyptian or, something way further beyond, like a Sumerian type of myth that involves apples. Because, again, as you guys were saying, apples are feminine, and the shape of the apple. Remember, Roman, when we were looking at how Venus makes that pattern in the sky, it's the exact same shape as what you see when you look at that apple matrix, right? When you cut it from the bottom and you see the way it forms at the bottom, or when you cut it from the side and you see the way the seeds are like pocketed in there. That's the Venus flower, right?
The body of man.
Yeah.
Looks like it's a torredo type field also
Yeah.
on the apple.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right.
And when you have just the core that basically fits in the Vesca Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
How so? What do you mean?
Well, if you have the apple core, if you connect the lines, you could make a Vesca Pisces out of it. The two circles intertwined.
Mhm.
Look here, Roman.
Nice.
You got a picture
Yeah.
of it.
Oh yes, I'm a visual boy. I gotta see. Gotta see what we're talking about.
Oh,
Oh,
boom! There you go.
oh, that is like
I mean, you
my
can't tell me that's
bro.
not feminine,
I want to jump up in there. Let me.
right? Like that's not
Look at her butthole hanging out.
Oh,
Oh, bud. Whoa, Dan, come on, dude. Jeez, bud. All right. No body shaming here, buddy. Let it hang, baby.
I'm just-
Anyways,
It's a joke. It's a joke.
I know.
Speaking of low hanging fruit,
Hey, man, it's all part of the tree, so we love it.
Hey, that
Well,
image that Mark showed earlier of the apple tree and the people under it, it had a blue serpent wrapped around the tree, which I thought was interesting because the blue is like a higher vibrational, right? That's your throat chakra. It looked like it was talking to the girl, so almost like the snake was speaking to her some knowledge from the apple tree.
Apparently, apples for love and healing magic. Enjoy it.
Yes.
Have any of you played the Assassin's Creed video game? The
No.
whole
Which
the
one?
whole game centers
Like 10 of
around
them.
Templars and secret
Okay.
societies and whatnot. But anyway, spoiler alert: at the end of the game, you get this magic apple, and it unlocks the whole realm and all this stuff. And at the beginning of that game, I always found it weird that they have this like religious disclaimer. They're like, "Oh, we don't claim any religion with this video game," and I always was like, "What do they mean?" It turns out that's their way of hiding the fact that they're using all these secret society themes within their video game. So that's a great way. You talk about video game MK Ultra. That's like an opposite version of that. That's a video game that can enlighten you.
Yeah, word. I love that. I just watched Angels and Demons last night actually because something came up somewhere. Oh, it was like some Nick Cage thing somebody was talking about, and I was like, Nick Cage and Tom Hanks are like the same. They're like the same motherfucker, I swear. And because you got the National Treasure movie and then the Da Vinci Code, but the author of the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons. Anyways, point is like Templars, man. Dan Brown, yeah, those guys. Oh man, there's so much light being thrown on them through like these different media sources that it just makes me like, it's just like, I start to get like pretty skeptical on them. I'm like starting to even like, I'm getting MK Ultra'd myself. I'm like, okay, these guys didn't exist at all, but they did. Anyways, Angels and Demons is a great movie, by the way. Tom
that's
Hanks
part
is
of the cloning theory, I believe, that they can. I've seen call it the documentary on Rumble just the other day that like just so many celebrities like just look like each other that they could be clones of each other or like just a different version of themselves.
I believe that. I absolutely believe that. I mean,
like some people say the queen was dead for like 15 years. You know what I mean? Like that they just announced that she died. Like she'd had a clone like be her. So I mean, anything's actually possible with that.
Oh, there are claims that Elton John played the Queen for the last 3 years.
I love that.
Speaking of fairies,
Exactly. That's believable.
Way to keep it in the
shapeshift.
I wanted to get into this other story because it connects into this other thing that I wanted to talk about. It's it involves the fairies, but a little bit in a different way. So it's the Tuatha Danaan, The Enchanting Predecessors of the Irish Fairies and Elves by Carrie Sullivan. And most people do not believe in elves. The little people, along with fairies, banshees, and werewolves, are often thrown into the category of fantasy and left to molder unless some video game or children's book decides to make use of them for commercial purposes. Whatever you believe to be true, stories of fantastic creatures are present in most ancient cultures, particularly in European regions such as Germany, Scandinavia, and Ireland. Widespread disbelief and discrediting of the mystical folklore have rendered, damn it, serious research into the origins of elves among almost non-existent. However, recent scientific and historical analysis of the folklore of Ireland reveal that elves are not wholly fictional, but actually based on real life beings. The etymology of elf. First, for clarity, it should be noted that the word elf is not indigenous to Ireland. This word derives from a term used in Common Germanic, the ancestor language of the modern German, English, and several Scandinavian languages. Elf became a label for the Irish fairies when the English began to write and record Irish folklore. Originally, elf was used to describe all fairies. Over time, the term came to stand for a specific subset of fairies, those that are small and possess supernatural powers. Other common characteristics of elves are the ability to shapeshift or the possession of great wealth. The old Germanic roots of the word made distinctions between male and female elves, as well as good and evil elves. This specifically has been lost, and the English term elf can apply to any of the above. Um, Scrolling down. Mixing myth and fact, the old elvish masters of Ireland, according to legend, there were 6 waves of masters of Ireland, and each has some connection to the biblical story of Noah and the flood. Today is unclear how much of this is fact and how much is fabricated by medieval Irish monks in order to make the Irish history equally as important as Israel's. In each of the waves, women play a prominent role, reflecting the unique equality present on the island before its incorporation with the rest of Europe. Scholars today know the most about the final wave of conquerors, the Milesians, sons of Mil, a descendant of Noah, who reached Ireland from Spain in the 4th century BC. These were the Celts. They displaced inhabitants known as the Tuatha De Danaan, the progenitors of the Irish fairies.
Wow.
Um, the coming Originally, the 5th wave of conquerors were simply known as the Tuatha De, people of God, but this posed a problem for the Irish monks recounting their history because the Israelites were the people of God. So the early inhabitants of Ireland became the Tuatha De Danaan, people of the goddess Danu, after their primary deity. Another group of settlers was the Fomorians, who will feature in the legends of the Tuatha De Danaan and in Celtic myths as giants and sea raiders. Some believe that they were the remnants of a forgotten trading outpost of the African empire of Carthage. The survivors of each successive wave of settlers were enslaved by the Fomorians. This solidified the characterization that the Fomorians were representatives of all that is evil in the world, the bad elves, in recounting the struggles between the Tuatha De Danaan. Thus, the good elves and the Fomorians, the former takes on an aspect of semi-divine and the latter aspect of semi-demonic.
Hmm.
It is possible to trace how the actions of each group developed mythic dimensions over time. For instance, when the Tuatha De Danaan came to Ireland from the Northern Isles, they burned their ships so that there would be no thought of retreat. This sent up a great cloud of dark smoke. By the time the Labor Gabala Erin, the Book of the Taking of Ireland, aka the Book of Invasions, was compiled in the 11th century, their arrival had been recast as they landed with horror, with lofty deed, in their cloud of mighty combat and specters, upon a mountain of Conmancine of Connacht.
Hmm.
Without distinction to discerning Ireland, without ships, a ruthless course, the truth was not known beneath the sky of stars, whether they were of heaven or of earth. It is said that the Tuatha De Danaan descended from a group of people who previously lived in Ireland but had to leave. They were called the Nemedians, and a faction of these people settled in northern Europe after their population was disseminated following a battle against the Fomorians. When the northern European Nemedians returned to Ireland, they became known as the Tuatha De Danaan. According to legend, they excelled in science, magic, and civilization. However, the Tuatha De Danaan were not gods or goddesses or fairy people themselves, but a druidic race with rare insight into the workings of nature. They were a scientific people who comprehended laws of nature and were able to operate. Tuatha De Danaan had all around knowledge of curative and power properties of plants and used them for treatment of the various diseases, mortal wounds, and the commission of spells. They also were very skillful handicraftsmen and musicians, soldiers, and poets, and their weapon was considered as the best of modern. Women had almost the same civil rights as men and actively participated in all man's affairs, even in war. Quite often they spoke as envoys at negotiations between conflicting parties and also sat at councils of conclusions of peace. The Tuatha De Danaan as hidden fairy folk. To this day, one can see in Ireland the great barrows and intricately carved tumuli left behind by the pre-Celtic fairy people. In addition to their wisdom, the Tuatha De Danaan's divine status was reinforced by their incredible beauty. Tall and slight, the pre-Celtic men and women had very light skin, delicate features, blue, gray, or green eyes, and long golden hair with the faultless beauty could make any mortal people crazy. This is similar to some depictions of elves today. Yeah, there was a part in here, I believe, about. Well, I guess I didn't have it.
Reminds me of
Anyway,
this reminds me of this book I have here, Atlantis in Atlantis in Ireland, and it talks about the round towers of Ireland, which, if you guys haven't seen these before, they look very much like obelisks. I'll share my screen, whoever, Roman or Dan, if you give me permission. But yeah, they're said some of them have fairies haunting them, right? Because fairies are known to haunt or stick around stone structures, particularly very old stone structures. But yeah, the connection architecturally there, I mean, if you consider the people who Dan just described coming from the Middle East, doesn't this kind of look like an obelisk?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if the bricks themselves are made of like a geopolymer sort of like, constructed specifically to enact spiritual encounters, which I personally am in strong belief that our ancient ancestors were building things to enact spiritual beings. I think that they were harbingers of temple building as spiritual entrapment, like on a bigger kind of level. And I fucking love that. Thanks for bringing that up, man.
There was so much
in the fairy
history
tales too, it's
that-
Go ahead.
No, I just said there was a lot of history in what you just said. I mean, that is a lot just to break down like half of what you just said and how important it is literally. It makes me want to get out my Eric Klein book, like I always do. But like seriously, it's right here. But honestly, it's just about the Iron Age alone. I mean, it's about half of what you just said. There's a lot to break down in everything you just read. If I want that link or whatever you just had.
Yeah, try to put that in the chat if you can.
Yeah.
I'd like to check that out too.
Right.
I got to break all that down mentally. That was a lot.
Yeah.
The
With
part about
those
coming
towers
from the Northern Isles reminds me of Hyperborea, actually. And the
Yeah.
Atlanteans are also said to be descendants from Hyperborea.
Mhm.
True.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that's in High Brazil. I
Mm.
think Hyperboreans were centered in High Brazil on some of the maps I've seen. I got a story from Tir Nanog that I could share with you guys. In the
Yeah,
Irish,
let me just say too that those
Yeah.
towers in fairy tales are usually associated with wizards or with mages in some sort of respect. Like even in like the Sword in the Stone, Merlin is in the tall tower. It's almost like that's their kind of place where they hang out, the mages. Uh, you know, so that's pretty
Yeah.
interesting that they also look like obelisks too. I wonder if there is an entrance in the obelisks at all.
Well,
And
the
it's,
one in DC has an entrance that goes in.
Well,
You
if Rapunzel's there, yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say that's towers where they locked up the princesses too.
Yeah,
right?
because her magical hair. I'm telling you, because the spinning and weaving and like it all goes together really. And I just had a child a couple years ago, so I'm like fresh on Disney movies. They all have like that underlying mythical like knowledge in them if you know what you're looking at, basically. So they would like harness women for their power or what have you, what they had, or Anyway.
I mean, the power that's in hair, like you'll even find that referenced in the biblical story of Samson. You know,
Yeah.
all
It's
the power he had
inherent.
was in hair, and he got
Yeah.
like what was it, seduced by a woman, and when he was asleep, she cut his hair, and there went his
Mhm.
powers.
Yeah.
And Samson was a member of the tribe of Dan,
Yeah.
Dancing.
which is
He was.
the Tuatha Danaan.
What about Danzig?
Danzig, yeah.
Okay,
Mother.
Danzig's just carrying on the torch. It's like, let me kill the-" yeah, dude. I
Hyperborea is
damn it, I
in the
forgot what I was
Ural
gonna say.
Mountains, by the way.
Where's this?
No,
The Ural Mountains.
Ural Mountains. Okay,
Hyperborea.
cool.
Sorry.
Tara
I mean,
is here,
it's
by
up
the
till
way.
recently that it was thought to be,
Hey,
or like
Tara.
known to be an actual country. Like only for the last, what is it, like 100 years we've made it a myth.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it portrayed in High
Yeah.
Brazil maps that homie Romy shared a couple weeks back.
What's that? Say it again.
Remember how we
Brazil?
were
A couple weeks back of like the Hyperboreans were in that map, and I had you send it over to me in messages.
Oh, word. Yes, that map. Yes.
Is it like where the north? Hold on.
I think they're all throughout like the British Channel and maybe up even into Scandinavia.
Like that.
I see
that's the
now.
map.
That's not the
You
one
guys
he's talking
remember-
about. Or
No,
is
it was a black and white map.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Mark?
Remember we were just looking at the apple myth, and I typed in Tuatha De Danaan, and here is that same image of the guys getting the apple from the fair maiden. And so look at that, an apple in the Tuatha De Danaan.
Can you go back to that picture?
Imagery?
actually?
Yep.
Yeah, can you blow,
They're the
can you zoom in?
muses.
Blow it up.
Yeah. Yeah, the muses, exactly. Yes,
That's exactly
absolutely.
what they are.
And I want to get into
And they're the Morgans.
I want to get into Melusine here in a second because she is a character that I think is actually a different version of like the Morgan and definitely a member of the Tuatha De Danaan, in my opinion. And look, she's got the little familiar, her deer, so like
Yeah.
almost like she is, like can we maybe transform into the
Daniel.
deer. Deer so and deer eat apples. You know what I'm saying? So do
Oh.
bears though. Everybody eats apples.
Well,
bro.
it's funny you say that. It kind of all goes together.
It does. I want to say the fairy mound. The fairy you guys mentioned the tower. The fairy mounds
Yeah.
were known as the fairy hills or the fairy forts, and the remains of stone circles, ring forts, and hill forts still exist today. In other circular prehistoric dwellings in Ireland, but these remains are said to be either homes for fairies or other supernatural creatures or portals to other worlds. So that's pretty interesting. They show a couple of these ring forts. They kind of look like the mounds of the Adena and Hopewell tribe, similar to that kind of appearance, because they've been grown over by a lot of time by a lot of grass and dirt.
Yeah, so I have to share this with you guys. Like, this comes from like my favorite oracle deck, like the only one that I use. It's this one. I'll just show it to you in a second. But here is source right here. It's a mound. Oop, oop, oop.
No.
Look. And it's a mound. And yep. That's where source comes from.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah. All of them are mounds. So then, like, you know, as you like retrieve your sword or go through the 9 seeds or the 9 cycles or whatever, and you learn, that's when you like emerge out of the mound and then become a goddess. Like, you know, you go from a Morgan, I guess, to a goddess.
Virgin.
I guess that's how you could say it. And then they just bring up, you know, the known goddesses of Celtic mythology, Blodeuwedd, Rhiannon. Some people say Sertawin isn't one, but I think she is. And, you know, anyway.
Bridget before, too.
What?
Bridget?
Yeah, but you know what's funny is they don't include her in this deck.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
That's wild. I know that. She's like the OG, right?
Yeah.
The OG of OGs, but they don't include her in that deck. They obviously Rhiannon. Here, let's see. So we have Blodeuwedd, Rhiannon, Bronwyn, and then Sertawin, which is debatable.
What do they represent?
Or who?
Pardon?
What do they represent?
Or who?
They're the goddesses that come out of the Avalonian cycle of the nine seeds, or whatever you want to call it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
So you go from like a Morgan, like a Fae, like a Fairy, a healer. You do all of like your healing, lore keeping, artisan. Go through that cycle. The spinner, the silver wheel. It's crazy, but like when you retrieve your sword, then that's what you become.
It's like college.
Yeah. Mother Maiden Crown.
No, yeah, it's funny you say that too, because it precedes Mother Maiden Crone. Like she's like the mother of the Mother Maiden Crone mythology. She's older, and she's not like the same person. It's literally they're all sisters.
Love that. And what's her name?
The Morgans.
Oh, the Morgans. Those are all the Morgans.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was Bronwyn, and then there was another one.
Oh, you want the goddesses? Yeah. Okay, so it's Rhiannon.
Yeah.
Bronwyn. Blodeuwedd. I don't excuse my accent. And then Sertawin. Cerdiwen.
Yeah, that's the one. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I got a love story from Tir na Nog that I wanted to go through real quick before we get over to the next thing. In Irish myths, the land of Tir na Nog is the realm of the other world, the place where the Fae lived and the heroes visited on quests. It was a place just outside the realm of man, off to the west, where there was no illness or death or time, but only happiness and beauty. It is important to note that Tir na Nog was not so much an afterlife as it was an earthly place, a land of eternal youth that could be reached by the way of magic. And in many Celtic legends, Tir na Nog plays an important role in the forming of both heroes and mystics. The very name Tir na Nog means land of youth in the Irish language. The War of Oisin. The best known tale of the Tir na Nog is the story of a young Irish warrior, Oisin, who fell in love with the flame-haired maiden Niam, whose father was the king of Tir na Nog. They crossed the sea of Niam's Niam's white mare together to reach the magical land, where they lived happily for 300 years. Despite the eternal joy of Tir na Nog, they were a part of Oisin that there was a part of Oisin that missed his homeland, and he occasionally felt a strange longing to return to Ireland. Finally, Niam knew she could hold him back no longer and sent him back to Ireland and his tribe, the Fianna. Oisin traveled back to his home on the magic white mare, and when he arrived, he found that all of his friends and family were long dead. His castle had overgrown with weeds. After all, he had gone for 300 years. Oisin turned back the mare to the west and sadly prepared to go back to Tir na Nog. On the way, the mare's hoof caught a stone, and Oisin thought to himself that if he carried the rock back with him to Tir na Nog, it would be like taking a bit of Ireland back with him. As he learned down to pick up the stone, he stumbled and fell and instantly aged 300 years. The mare panicked and ran to the sea, heading back to Tir na Nog without him. However, some fishermen had been watching on the shore as they were astonished to see a man age so fast. Naturally, they assumed magic was afoot, so they gathered up Oisin and took him to see St. Patrick. When Oisin came before St. Patrick, he told him the story of his red-headed love, Niam, and his journey in the magical land of Tir na Nog. Once he was finished, Oisin crossed out of his lifetime, and he was at last in peace. So that's a pretty wild story. He was riding across the ocean on the magical white mare.
Sign me up.
Where do you think Tir na Nog is at?
Camelot. Sounds a lot like King Arthur.
Sounds like it's all the way across the sea. It's not just some channel like the or something.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Kind of sounds like the story of Odysseus as well. On the what is it? The island of the nymphs.
Yep.
Crossing the seas or the ocean on the white mare reminds me of Odin crossing the nine realms on Sleipnir.
Oh, yeah, interesting. Wonder if that has a more astronomical story to it.
Absolutely.
Well,
I think a lot of the myths
does.
in a way, yeah.
Yeah, everything does. It's all the same.
I got this been pulled up here. If you guys haven't read what it is yet, this is an indigenous Native American belief in fairies or their story on some fairies. The Nunehi, which sound like the Menehune of Hawaii, which are like little people, but the Nunehi are a race of immortal spirit people in Cherokee mythology. In the Cherokee language, Nunehi means the people who live anywhere, but it is often translated into English as the people who live forever or simply the immortals. The Cherokee believe that the Nunehi are a type of supernatural human being, completely distinct from ghost and nature spirits, as well as from gods. In this sense, the Nunehi, I'm just going to say little people in the Cherokee language, are the Cherokee equivalent of fairies in traditional European folklore. The belief in fairy-like beings is universal among all ethnicities, including all American Indian tribes. According to the Cherokee folklore, Nunehi had many underground townhouses throughout southwestern Appalachian Mountains, and there were particularly fond of high mountain peaks where no timber ever grew. Hunters would often hear the Nunehi in the mountains singing and dancing and beating drums, which is a thing. But when they would go toward the sound, it would shift about and suddenly seem to be coming from behind them or from some other direction, so that the person hearing the sound would never be able to find where it was coming from. And I wanted to read this. This is an account in North Carolina. The Nunehi defend Franklin, North Carolina, during the American Civil War, by which time Nikwasi had become known as Franklin, North Carolina. A group of Union soldiers approached Franklin with the intention of burning it to the ground. Well, A group of scouts returned to their commanding officers and warned them not to attack the town because it was heavily guarded by soldiers on every corner. However, the town was defenseless, and every able-bodied person had already left to fight in the war. Unaware of this fact, the Union soldiers then changed their course to Atlanta, Georgia, burning every town in their path. According to the Cherokee, it was the Nunehi that protected Franklin from the Union soldiers.
Shamans.
Spiritsmith. Oh, yes.
Pretty cool.
I live actually on the Trail of Tears, like where they dumped off the Native Americans, like right there.
I live right where it started, right near Cherokee.
Yeah, that's what's up. But yeah, they're just the people that are able to communicate with spirits through rituals.
Mm-hmm. Through shapes.
Cool. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
When we were talking about the Tuatha De Danaan and their battle with the Milesians,
Mm-hmm.
I have a story here about the Milesians. They come from Mill. The guy's name was Mill. And the Labor Gabala Erin, a medieval Irish Christian pseudo-history. The Milesians, Irish Gertir Mildi Aspanine, are the final race to settle in Ireland. They represent the Irish people. The Milesians are Gaels or Gauls who sail to Ireland from Iberia, Hispania, after spending hundreds of years traveling the earth. When they land in Ireland, they contend with the Tuatha De Danaan, who represent the Irish pantheon of gods. The two groups agreed to divide the island between them. The Milesians take the world above, while the Tuatha take the world below. Whether the word Milesian came before or after the name Mil Espane, which is the Irish form of the Latin Miles Hispaniae, soldier of Hispania, is uncertain. Joseph Lennon writes that no Irish language cognate of the word exists, and that the word Milesian is not used to refer to the Irish with any regularity until the 18th century. Scholars believe that the tale is mostly an invention of medieval Christian writers. But here's what the myth says. This is pretty interesting, and it connects to a lot of things that we've been talking about lately. The Labor Gabala, which is compiled in the 11th century AD by an anonymous writer, purports to be a history of Ireland and the Irish, the Gaels. It tells us that that all mankind is descendant from Adam through the sons of Noah, and that a Scythian king named Phineas Farsaid, descendant of Noah's son Japheth, is the forebearer of the Gauls. Phineas, a prince of Scythia, is described as one of the 72 chieftains, 72, who built the Tower of Babel. His son Nel weds Scota, daughter of an Egyptian pharaoh, and they have a son named Goidel Glass. Goidel crafts the Goidelic language from the original 72 language that arose after the confusion of tongues. Goidel's offspring, the Gaels, leave Egypt at the same time as the Israelites of the Exodus and settle in Scythia. After some time, they leave Scythia and spend 440 years wandering the earth, undergoing a series of trials and tribulations akin to those of the Israelites, who spent 40 years wandering in the wilderness. Eventually, they reach Hispania by sea and conquer it. There, Goidel's descendant Breogan founds a city called Brigantia and builds a tower from the top of which his son Ith glimpses Ireland. Brigantia refers to Corunna, then known as Brigantium in modern-day Galicia, Spain, and Breogan's tower is likely to have been based on the Tower of Hercules, which was built by Corunna by the Romans. Ith sails to the islands with a group of men. He is welcomed by its three kings, Maccool, Mackecht, and Macgreen. These three are members of the Tuatha De Danaan who ruled Ireland at the time. Evidence suggests that the Tuatha De are the main pagan gods of Ireland. Ith is then killed by unnamed attackers, and his men return to Iberia. The 8 sons of Ith's brother, Mil Espene or Galam, lead an invasion force to avenge his death and take Ireland. After they land, they fight against the Tuatha De and make for Tara, the royal capital. On the way, they are met on 3 mountains by Banba, Fonda, and Iru, the wives of Ireland's 3 kings. They are believed to have been a trio of land goddesses. Each woman says that the Gaels will have good fortune if they name the land after her. One of the Gaels, Armagin, promises it shall be so. At Tara, they meet the 3 kings who defend their claim to joint kingship of the land. They ask that there be a 3-day truce, during which the Gaels must stay a distance of 9 waves from the land. The Gaels agree, but once their ships are 9 waves from Ireland, the Tuatha De conjure up a great wind that prevents them from sailing back to land. However, Emergin calms the wind by erecting a verse. The surviving ships return to land, and the 2 groups agree to divide Ireland between them. The Gaels take the world above, while the Tuatha take the world below, the other world, i.e. the other world, and enter the Shee, the ancient burial mounds that dot the Irish landscape. Amerigan divides the kingship between Edaramon, who rules the northern half of Ireland, and Eber Finn, who rules the southern half. The division of the land was probably invented by the writers to explain the Eamon and Eber. Modern scholars, however, believe that these were fictional characters and that their writers were attempting to give the medieval dynasties more legitimacy. But also, there is a part of that story is that they take the Jacob's pillar or the Jacob's pillow to Tara, and they place it in the throne of Tara, and everybody that goes there to become king is made king upon the Stone of Destiny, which is also a biblical tale of Jacob. So it's very interesting because then you later on you have the Jacobite Revolution or the Jacobite Revolution in England.
There's your Princess and the
I'm
Pea
gonna
right
need you
there.
to send me that history lesson too, because you just pretty much put like the Macedonian in one thing. Like you put everything, almost every Irish myth into, and the Bible, and Egyptian mythology into like one paragraph once again. So
it's a very interesting story. It connects with
Ralph Ellis. Was that Ralph Ellis? Was that
No,
Ralph Ellis?
No. Okay. No, that's Wikipedia, man. But it connects
Sticky Wiki.
It connects to Akhenaten and Moses and possibly
Aaron.
The fleeing of the Exodus and Aaron, to Ireland, which is pretty interesting. I have some other articles that go in a little bit deeper, but I wanted to share that because we are going to try to get somebody on the show that talks about that very subject for next year when we do Ireland, Scotland.
Oh, yeah.
That's so exciting.
Well, let me see here.
I love it.
I wanted to talk about one character before we wane off, and before too long, is the Melusine, this original Little Mermaid story, and the fairy, the daughter of the fairy and the king. Okay. One day, Elinus, the king of Albany, met a beautiful fairy by a fountain. so lovely was the fairy who called Priscine, that the king fell in love with her and eventually made her his wife. In time, Priscine grew heavy with child. During her pregnancy, she made one condition to the king, Elinus, that he had to agree that he would not see her while she was in labor. However, in his excitement, when he heard that she was going to give birth to triplets, he rushed into the birthing chamber to see his new daughters, ignoring the taboo. As a result, a very unhappy Priscine had to leave the kingdom forever, taking her 3 daughters with her to the lost Isle of Avalon. King Elinus mourned the loss of his family for 7 years. His son Nathus, by his first wife, became the king. The 3 girls, Melusine, Melior, and Palatine, grew up in Avalon. On their 15th birthday, the eldest Melusine asked why they had been taken to the island of Avalon. Upon hearing her father had broken his word, forcing them to leave the kingdom, Melusine sought revenge. Together with her sisters, Melusine captured Elinus and locked him in with his riches in a mountain. Priscine had become enraged when she learned what the girls had done to their father and punished each of them for their disrespect. Melusine was condemned to take the form of a serpent from the waist down every Saturday. And if she found a husband who would agree to never see her on a Saturday, she would remain a human woman. But if her husband saw her on a Saturday, she would revert to the serpent until Judgment Day. Melior had to keep a sparrow hawk in a castle in Armenia until she was rescued. And Palatine was imprisoned with her treasure on top of a mountaintop in Aragon. The fairy Melusine was of the fairy Priscine and the king Elibas of Albany. She became the fairy queen of the forest of Colombiers in the French region of Poitou. One day, she and 2 of her subjects were guarding their sacred fountain when a young man, Raymond of Poitiers, burst out of the forest. Melusine spent the night talking with Raymond, and by dawn, they were betrothed. But with one condition. Melusine requested that Raymond promise to never see her on a Saturday. He agreed, and they were married. Melusine brought her husband great wealth and prosperity. She built the fortress of Lusignan so quickly that it appeared to be made by magic. Over time, Melusine built many castles and fortresses, churches, towers, and towns, and each of a single night throughout the region, she and Raymond had 10 children. But each child was flawed. The eldest had one red eye and one blue eye. The next had an ear larger than another. And another had a lion's foot growing from his cheek. And another had but one eye. And the 6th son was known as Geoffrey, with a great tooth, as he had a very large tooth. In spite of the deformities, the children were so strong, talented, and loved throughout the land. And one day, Raymond's brother visited him and made Raymond very suspicious about the Saturday activities of his wife. So the next Saturday, Raymond sought his wife, finding her in a bath, where he spied on her through a crack in the door, and he was horrified to see that she had the body and the tail of a serpent from the waist down. He said nothing until the day their son, Geoffrey, with a great tooth, attacked a monastery and killed 100 monks, including one of his brothers. Raymond accused Melusine of contaminating his line with her serpent nature, thus revealing that he had broken his promise to her. And as a result, Melusine turned into a 15-foot serpent and circled the castle 3 times, waiting piteously, and then flew away. She would return at night to visit her children, then vanish, and Raymond never slept happy again. Melusine appeared at the castle wailing whenever a Count of Lusignan, or I'm saying that in a terrible French accent, actually not a French accent at all, so I do apologize. It was said that the noble line, which originated with Melusine, will reign until the end of the world. Her children included the King of Cyprus, the King of Armenia, the King of Bohemia. Wait, is that Rudolph II? The Duke of Luxembourg, and the Lord of Lusignan. As it goes, Melusine was said to fly 3 times around the north tower of the castle of de Lusignan, just prior to any bad occurrence. She was last seen in the 16th century flying around the north tower just days before the castle burnt to the ground. Apparently, Of the 10 children, 2 were normal, and Melusine's line was carried. So some of the myth, legitimately, like in French history, a lot of people say that they are of the family line of Melusine. So they're claiming to have serpentine like bloodline. And that's why that story holds true to this day. And there's a lot of Melusine worship. And, the Starbucks logo is in fact Melusine. So
Made me think
not
of,
Medusa.
made me think of dragons as well. Locked in the mountain with all his riches and flying around the castle, and somehow also made me think of with not seeing on Saturday and all, with the story of Shrek and Fiona. Like
That's what I thought about. Yeah.
yeah, like you don't you don't want to see me, or like don't look at me after the sun.
But it was inverted. The story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Just so many things all at once, and like indeed Starbucks, and kind of the what is it, the Gnostic god who is said to have a the demiurge,
Abraxas with the chicken snake god, kind of the snake for feet thing.
What's a quaddle?
That guy.
Yeah, Abraxas.
yeah, the feathered serpent. Yeah,
Abraxas. No, not Coatl. So Coatl, that's not the demiurge.
That's a feathered serpent.
that's another
It's another story of the
feathered
same
serpent.
action.
Okay, that's true.
They also say that, like, the Queen of Babylon, all of her sons ascended to the throne, and that's why, like, the temple is unclean and will remain unclean. And I can't quote that verbatim where I read that, because I don't know where, but that's like a myth somewhere. I'll find it.
I wanted to talk about Amphitrite, the wife of Poseidon. If you guys want to go into some more sea nymphs.
Yeah, sea nymph it up, dude.
All right, cool. According to the legend, the goddess Amphitrite is the wife of the sea god Poseidon, and was herself one of the goddesses of the seas and oceans mentioned in Greek mythology that predated Poseidon. Amphitrite was known in Roman mythology by the name Salacia. In Greek mythology, she married to Poseidon, but in Roman mythology, she's married to Neptune, Poseidon's Roman counterpart. With Poseidon, Amphitrite has 2 kids, Triton, who was a merman and became a minor sea god, and a daughter, Rhode, who was a sea nymph. Amphitrite, the goddess, pronounced as Amphitrite, was one of the 50 sea nymphs born to Nereus and Darius. Her name means the third element, which is translated into English. When she has the power to manipulate seawater, she can control sea creatures, and in mythological texts, she is known to be the personification of the sea. She has extensive knowledge of herbs. She could also transform herself into a hideous sea monster, and is portrayed as a mermaid with a serpent tail. Here are some of the engaging facts will help you get more knowledge of her. They have like 50 or some facts about her. But a lot they covered in that.
Because there's Roman mythology within that, and Greek mythology within that as well. Like, like Pandora's box and the 2 serpents that were supposed to carry it across the water, but they opened the box, so because they weren't supposed to, but they did. It goes, it's like a layered Greek mythology story too. It's kind of weird.
It is. She has a lot of powers too. They say that she could travel the seas as a mermaid. Since she's a sea goddess, she can, of course, breathe underwater. She has the ability to manipulate seawater and move around seawater however she wishes. She can breed sea monsters. She also holds the ability to transform into a big and hideous sea monster herself. She's able to create enormous sea waves enough to drown entire cities. She has extensive knowledge of herbs, as I mentioned earlier. She also has control over underwater plants. And she's competitive by nature as the first daughter of Nereus and Poseidon's wife. She was meant to maintain ocean peace. She possesses all the common Olympian goddess powers like immortality, superhuman strength, omnipresence, teleportation, and metamorphosis.
Reminds me of if like the sea monster is an analogy for like a giant submarine, like a alien technology, but moves like in and out of water really
True.
quickly.
That's a good point.
But also, I mean, I think like if we're talking like pre-deluge on a lot of these stories, like if they're coming at times when there's supposedly more lands in the Pacific, and some of these like these land masses were more revealed if the oceans were differently, like how these stories could be like traveling across water, and all that fun stuff, because the serpent symbolism to the boats and ships and things, and I'm wondering if she's going across the water on two serpents. I wonder if those are just like majestic boats or ships,
Canoes.
I could see that. They said that
Canoes.
Quetzalcoatl came over on serpents.
Mm-hmm. Two.
and
What
he's
are they?
flying, so
What are
Oh,
they?
white
it's a
man.
boat and a
Merlin.
spaceship. It's a spaceship that can go underwater, so it's a boat, but it's also a ship. You know what I'm saying? I'm just kidding.
What do
I'm
they
not
call
alluding
those ones in
everything to aliens.
Hawaii,
You would never
Roman?
do that.
What do they call those ones in Hawaii that have like the little side rail off the
Oh,
boat?
oh man, those are like just the Hawaiian style canoes. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not
what
sure
are
what the
they
The
called?
actual.
Waka canoes.
Oh.
You guys. Oh my gosh. I just went to Crystal Bridges and they have
Outrigger?
one.
Yeah, that's it.
Which one?
An outrigger?
Outrigger.
Dude,
Yeah.
I've seen them like hit like 10 people in one of those, like surfing big waves in a break, like and they just like all flip over the whole thing slowly, like the small side was like, oh, you could see it from like a distance. Oh shit, they're going, and they just go and they take the wave. Oh man, oh so gnarly.
I wonder if they like connected two ships like that so that way they'd have more stability in the seas because they would be less likely to flip over if they had something connecting them together and also separated, so that way, because they're not going to be able to flip, or they're called catamarans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Slick.
The Marshallese, this is what they there's an actual okay, hold on. I'll figure this. Okay, so at Crystal Bridges Museum of Modern Art, they have one like there that you could see, and they're called they're from the Marshallese boat builders, and they're called corcors. But they're like the same style.
Yes, catamaran. Yeah, it's a catamaran.
Like, how did they know? These are Marshallese. Y'all even know where the Marshallese Islands are? Probably not, because we blew them up.
Yeah, the Marshall Islands got water. They got flooded by the rising sea levels. Those are the first people to become refugees.
I mean, oh, they're right. They're here. We in Arkansas, we gave them. I say we. Our government gave them like dual citizenship and places to live here in Bentonville because of that.
Surprised California doesn't have a desalination plant with the rising sea levels and floods.
Oh, don't even, dude. Like, I know. Makes no sense, but the politics here are ridiculous, dude. Like they could have installed desalination plants.
Australia's doing it.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want to know how to protect yourself from the rising water and from the sea and all,
yeah,
go visit the Dutch. We know all about it. Like we literally we created a new province because we needed more land. People wanted to move, so we're like, okay, we'll make land.
Yeah.
So now we have 12 provinces.
Suck up the ocean.
Yeah, like we literally just, we pumped it dry and we ducked it off. Like I don't exactly know how we did it, but it was fairly recently as well, like somewhere in the 1970s, I believe.
Good engineering.
Oh yeah, like we literally have studies for that, how to like deal with water and how to work with water. I mean, all those fancy man-made islands in the which all the way too rich oil barons get. With the shape of like palm trees and whatever. It's all made by the Dutch.
Yeah.
Those are all made by the Dutch.
Oh, and off the coast of Qatar, and what is
Yeah.
it? What's the big hot spot over there? Abu Dhabi or something like that.
Yeah, those are all made by the Dutch, or at least by Dutch-run companies.
Dubai, yes, Dubai has all those weird islands. I was thinking at first you're talking about
China
the Chinese,
does too, though. China has been doing it
yeah,
too.
the Chinese make,
but it's been like
that's
not
more like
it's been illegal.
military. Yeah, because they're like, that's a military type of action. They're trying to like extend their territory past their
oceanic, like past where they are, like in maritime laws. Completely illegal.
Yeah, the Dutch took over the Americas first before they gave it over to the English, I think.
Yep. Yeah, New York used to be New Amsterdam. There's still stuff dug up from when it was Dutch territory. A lot of the names still refer to Dutch places. Just Brooklyn and Harlem, two of the best examples. Those are cities here in the Netherlands.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
So basically, everybody came from the north.
Netherlands. Yeah.
You can see that map of that lion. That's like Florida's his leg sticking out. That's usually the map of the Dutch colony.
The Dutch lion, yeah.
There's a lot more to the story than that, but yeah.
We're talking last night about like kind of like I don't think it's so hidden, but like the hidden Odin worship that's in Freemason and shit. Like I think that we play a lot more homage to the North and like the old ways. Like the higher up you go on the occult, I feel like a lot of it is Odin worship. Like even with the rotunda of the U.S. Capitol where they have George Washington riding the rainbow, like completely pictured as Odin, like George Washington is Odin and is like a huge Freemason member, like George Washington, like they have, in the museum, right? Like he's just absolutely known for his devotees.
It's kind of it kind of reminds me of what Morgan was talking about the Morgan and how they go through the different ranks of the Morgan and then they come out as a goddess. George Washington went up the ranks of the Freemasons and then he came out as a deity and he was deified.
As Odin.
Oh, 33rd degree.
I mean, the Romans did that too, with Caesar, for example, or Alexander the Great. They were all deified,
Yes.
And the 9 rings, the 9 circles, also makes me think of Dante's Inferno, the 9 circles of hell, going deeper and deeper.
Oh yeah, 9 worlds of Norse. Yggdrasil.
George Washington definitely loved planting apple trees. You know what I'm saying? The secret trees.
Yeah, didn't Newton, he sat under a apple tree, right? When he theorized the whole.
He did. I wonder if that's why we give apples to our teacher.
Oh shit, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
And then the mythos of the worm being in the in the apple. What's up with that, man?
Oh, like would that be then like the teacher's pet? That's something up to the teacher.
Yeah, he was a teacher.
That all comes from Germany. The whole teaching system, the way it's established, it's a German system. So who knows?
Are you shocked?
They have all those folklore. They have all those things within their culture.
Kindergarten, German word.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey. Oh snap! Well, hey Mark, you got any other fairy stories? Did you have a favorite fairy folklore? Anything? Maybe another Kuchen chair.
Well, I think we may have covered this one already. The prophecies of Merlin and Geoffrey of Monmouth's story of the dragon that Merlin fought. Didn't we just kind of talk about that or similar subjects. There's another story about a dragon that I think Shakespeare wrote about. I'm not sure, but I'll read a little bit. Oh no, it was Edmund Spenser. So the Fairy Queen is a poetic depiction of a dragon, which is sort of used as a kind of like antichrist figure. So, but it takes place in fairyland. But no, I don't have anything prepared other than there are chapters in this book that are interesting.
Hell
So,
yeah.
I got
Wait, what's the book? I'm sorry, Mark.
That's all right. It's called The Book of Dragons.
The Book of Dragons? I actually have never heard of that one.
Yeah, Penguin. It's a Penguin classic.
Oh, nice.
I love Penguin.
Yeah.
Well, fairies having like butterfly wings or dragonfly wings is a fairly recent thing because the church gave them bat wings. Because speaking of demonizing, they like literally demonized them.
Yeah.
'Cause I believe, and speaking of Shakespeare, I believe it was Shakespeare who came up with either them having insect wings or like actual feathers.
Well, in a lot of the older depictions of fairies, you're right. They're not winged at all. That's like a sort of illustrative quality to give people the idea of flying. But the older depictions show what looks like small humans, right? And they're usually glowing like light bodies.
Maybe child size, sometimes like up to 4 feet, sometimes smaller.
Well, we saw some pictures of that earlier. I mean, those fairies we were looking at earlier didn't have wings. The ones that were dancing around the fairy circle, they're just sort of like what we think of as little people, maybe.
I think
Could
the
be
picture had
the
wings.
shape itself, like of the pattern on the wing is specific for like defying physics, like that CD or what was it called? BCE, like we talked about it on the show when that we had at the beginning of the month last month. What was
You're talking about
what's his name
Chaz
from Florida?
research
Yes.
into the
Yes.
wings? Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know if
just
that's
like the
connected to
symbology.
fairies.
No, it doesn't. But like just like the aspect of like they're like Merkaba, their thing that allows them to travel from like one realm to
Well,
another,
these-
like kind of like a
These
toroid
historically
civilization.
have always been, mythological and definitely connected to
Mhm.
ideas like immortality and perfection. And, the Egyptians considered them like, I think, some sort of psychopomp, like they would have a bee in their sarcophagi because having a bee with them would do something special in the underworld and their
Mhm.
afterlife.
Mhm.
And that's a big part of the fairy lore too, is like, fairies exist in the mirror realm, which some people say is like the afterlife, right? It's like what I mean by mirror realm is it looks exactly like what we would call normal waking consciousness, but it has that dreamlike aspect to it, almost like a lucid dream, right? That would be the more
Or another
modern
timeline.
experience of that.
Yeah.
The ghost of dead people, spirits.
Like if you could like legitimately hop timelines like from one to another and hop into a timeline where you're 29 and then you just die. It's like your fountain of youth is finding out how to like hop in other timelines, and it's just like you haven't lived forever. You just keep placing yourself with another version of yourself, and you just keep finding out how to go back in time in one life. And I don't know, all the Saint Germain accounts, man, like, there's something to this absolute, the absolute final tier of the alchemical. I mean, what are we doing here? Like what are we doing here with the alchemical process? Are we transmuting or are we not? Are we ascending or not? Are we busting through fucking timelines or are we not? I don't know. That's what we're trying to find out.
Apparently, we are traveling at the speed of light underneath Switzerland.
We got 1 foot through the veil.
Yeah.
We're coming through.
So that's what we're doing, woman.
Yeah.
So we need to be fairies. I will I'm going to take this new moon energy that's coming on, and I'm going to go and try to legitimately summon a fairy and make some sweet love. Okay, like it's
You
going down.
should.
Consume me, fairy.
Now is
Consume
the
me and
time
make
to
me
do
want
it.
you.
A couple months back, a couple of pixies at a
Be careful.
I'll record everything. So just so we have
with
video
your
proof.
with your pocket rabbit. Let us
You
know.
know,
There's lots of
fucking
rabbits
fairies
out
on
here. A lot of
OnlyFans.
rabbits. Jackrabbits out here, actually. Have you guys ever seen a jackrabbit? Real jackrabbit?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
huge. Big.
They're so huge. They're rabbits. They're so damn big.
Yeah, they are.
Does anybody else have anything else to add to the fairies? Otherwise, we can shut it down.
Rabbits with
wanted to
little
show
shells.
What do you got, Morgan?
I just
One
wanted
at
to
a
show
time.
you guys something real quick after everyone's done because I've already talked about it. I was just gonna like kind of quote and give you like guys stuff about what I said. So go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to do a quick thing.
Okay.
This is about a changeling. The changelings were known to have children would disappear, taken by the changelings, and they would leave a changeling in its place, disguising it as the child. All right, in this story, the fairies have supposedly displayed an alarming habit for kidnapping human beings, in particular babies. And there are many such reports. One account listed a fairyist website details a report of a woman who in 1844 gave birth to a baby. Sometime later, the infant was lying in bed with the mother and father. When the mother awoke to find the baby gone, she would soon find that it had been taken by the fairy folk, and the report would say the incident thus. Uttering an exclamation of fear, lest the fairies should have taken the child, she jumped out of bed, and there, sure enough, a number of the little sandy things had got the baby by the foot at the bed and were undressing it. They fled away through a hole in the floor, laughing as if they shrieked, and snatching up her child. In an examination, she found that they had laid all the pin heads head to head as they took them out of the dress. For months afterwards, she always slept with the child between herself and the husband and used carefully to pin it by its bedclothes to the pillow in the sheets that it might not be snatched hastily away. This happened in the old house which stood where the new one now stands on the south side of the vicarage gate. The woman, as she heard tell, had a child changed, and one, a poor thing, left in his place, but she was very kind to it, and every morning, on getting up, she found a small piece of money in her pocket. My informant firmly believes in the existence of them, and wonders how it is that of late years no such thing have been seen. Now, they're also known to, if you can make them laugh, they'll give you your kid back, according to some legends. Or sometimes you have to torture them.
And
Or sometimes you have to torture them.
Yeah.
I do have a story. I think Tara has something to add to. Tara, you got something?
Heck yeah.
Slippity slide that on in there. Come on, hit us with some of that right there. Come on now. Bleep it out. Yo.
Shut up.
Can you translate that?
Slide it on in there, hibbity hobbity, yo. Come on.
Come on with it. I don't know.
I'll do my story first while you find the paragraph.
Yeah. Well, I'll just read the paragraph.
Go ahead.
Can you turn her mic up? She's really quiet. Or
Hit
Can
the
you hear
game,
me
baby.
now?
Yeah.
Whoa, there we go.
Yeah.
yes.
There it is.
Okay.
Loud and proud.
Let's.
You got this.
All right. I think I changed the page because now I don't see.
Well,
what
I'll
it's
read
gonna
mine
say.
because it's
Take
really
your
short.
time.
Find it. I'll read mine. It's short. Okay. Following a drug overdose in 1989, a blue fairy took Jeffrey by the hand, leading him to a proverbial stairway to heaven. After watching a dog lead another soul up these steps, 3 figures, his grandmother among them, appeared to Jeffrey, taking him on a series of journeys. At one point, he encountered a cadre of foul-smelling, jackal-headed people who demanded to know his identity from him, where he had come. His journeys escalated in intensity until Jeffrey met Jesus and Mary before finally awaking in a hospital. That's just one small story from Joshua Cutchin's book that I was telling you guys about.
Wait, you said it was a drug overdose?
Mm-hmm. And this guy Jeffrey, which is funny because we had a Jeffrey in the other story.
Yeah,
They're all
big
Jeffrey.
one-tooth Jeffrey.
Yeah, this guy, he must have had a big tooth because he was doing a lot of drugs, and it caused him to see a blue fairy. And he had a crate, but there it goes to show you, like even on psychedelics, people see these beings. There's several stories about this. But Tara, you got something?
Which is what I was trying to convey earlier with the fairy circles and them eating mushrooms as they're having trips
Well,
and going to
mycelium is all
fairyland.
connected.
Yeah.
We talk to each other.
Gable.
Well, just this little paragraph.
Just the one about the dragon?
Maybe that's how they all dream together too, and like figure out what they're doing. It's by eating these mushrooms and going on trips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like the ritual part of it because there's like different you have to do like different parts for it to all work. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, for sure. For sure.
Supposedly, come across fairies dancing in a circle at night. They make you go into the center and dance till you're dead. Fairy rings.
Oh yeah, that was in a movie we watched last night, actually.
Were we talking about that in like mosh pits? How they do that, like doing like the death circle or like the pit circle?
Travis Scott.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that
okay.
shit
Well,
all right.
The wall of death. They used to do the wall of death, where like they get the crowd to divide into two, and then everybody just runs into each other.
Chill. Good times.
Who volunteers for that?
I haven't done that yet.
Oh man.
Oh.
All right.
After you several still lives.
Right on.
I've never done any wall of death, but definitely some mosh pits.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever told the story. Oh, this fits in because the guy was wearing a kilt. I was at a corn show, and I was 19, and it was just like me and this at the end of the night, like the final song, me and this one other guy last in the mosh pit because I was going nuts, and we were just like we started just like doing this and just like each other, and we were just dancing at this point. But he was big with dreads and like wearing. He was corned out. Which, I mean, hey,
tell me this was for Nickelback or something.
They got the
no, dude. I fuck with corn, man. I don't know, like it's because they hit me at that time when I was growing up, where I was just like, like the production level shit is fire. Like I don't know who produced those albums, but those motherfuckers are actually legitimate in the studio, bro. So I can't throw no shade on somebody who knows how to mix it up.
All right.
Really, I do promotion for them. That's when they had
Corn is a sacred plant, brother. Gold of the gods.
Yep. And then the letter K, when they reverse the K, that's actually they were doing some Masonic shit. Yep. Oh, they reversed the R. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the K, the corn with the K, like I mean, and then the corn ceremony and the Masonic.
I already showed you the article of that on how Jonathan Davis proclaims how he got the band got the name Corn, and it had all to do with just taking a shit.
No, see, that's the thing. And then I feuded, and I said, no, in fact, it's definitely a homage to the Masonic rituals.
Yeah, I think people put too much Masonic shit on everything, dude.
Well, then how is everything?
That's because it's all that we know. If our entire, existence wasn't, created by some of these sons of bitches, then it wouldn't be so. And
we just
completely genetically imbued.
We do rituals.
Hell yeah.
Okay, well, let's say a prayer.
You find it, Tara?
Yeah, let's do it.
Explanation of the dreams. So this is just from a book called Dreams in the Invisible World in Colonial New England.
Cool.
By way of explanation of the dream's absurd juxtapositions, he quotes some lines from Horace, and then it's in Latin, but a woman beautiful above has a fish's tail, a rather conventional aphorism describing the absurd, which has often been used to describe a work of literature that begins well but ends in disappointment. He then offers a prayer in Latin. Sorry. Oh God, compassionate and kind, grant me and my comrades that we may ascend to heaven on the divine staircase, not only in our dreams, but also in truth. And so I thought that tied into like everything that we were talking about with the mermaids and the fairies and the apples and the seeds and the trees and that connecting to like just a woman.
Yeah.
The divine
and, dreams and being the weaver of dreams traditionally is a woman's role.
Yeah.
At least and so
Did you say you had a fish tail or a snake tail? Or did they say
that is a fish tail.
fish tail? Cool. Interesting.
or scales, you know.
Yeah.
The scales of justice.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
thank you.
beautiful.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So next week we are going to dive into leprechauns and all things kind of relating to that archetype. So sticking to a lot of the Irish roots, and everybody who's here, let's do it again if you guys are available. Like legit, you know, anybody in the chat. I saw a homie from the Celtic Scotsman. He said, much love from Stirring Scotland. I'm a 26-year-old Scottish stoned mason, and I've worked in historic science since I was 16. There's definitely something to star forts, and I think they're talismans. I'm like, hey, brother, if you want to come onto the stream, we'll be here next Sunday and talk about that. See if any leprechauns ever pop up in your stonemason star forts, and see if that's some sort of Merkabaic traveler transportation to a next timeline or dimension, you know, because it's all about the shapes, baby.
Yep.
I looked up the definition, or not definition, the etymology of the word pyramid and what the Egyptians called the word pyramid, and they called it a mer, M-E-R. So like a Merkaba.
But the name we use is like the name for
fire. Like
pyramid, yeah, fire, yeah.
Kind of interesting that it sounds like urn, and maybe people's souls were being carried out of the pyramid into the afterlife somehow. I mean, I know the pyramids weren't used for burial, but maybe that's where they processed you, you know, before they put you off in wherever you went.
I totally believe that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that say it's a machine.
It is
shafts and whatnot, but that doesn't mean
some people have
multifunction, man.
Things, yeah.
Some people have also talked about doing drugs in the pyramid, and you know, the basically the gods coming out of the walls, or having these other out of body experiences within the pyramid. So we're talking about like fairyland, tripping, going to these other dimensions. Maybe possibly it was a way to get yourself to another dimension, into like the other worlds, you know.
Or
Definitely
like
travel.
hypnotize you. Because if you like are in the pyramids and you're in a specific spot and you talk to someone lower, I mean, you sound like a god. I mean, it's crazy. The way that they work is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could literally play God.
It's amazing. The Russians do studies on the tachyons associated with pyramid structures, and they show that the place like where the King's Chamber is in the Great Pyramid is a place where there's like a portal of energy that kind of builds up in that particular area of the pyramid on the tachyons.
That's freaking
Like
nuts.
neutrinos or something.
That's crazy.
Nice.
Anybody else have any last
Plug
requests?
your stuff.
I
y'all.
just wanted
Plug
to
your
share
stuff.
the book that I like. It's called The Avalonian Oracle.
Oh,
Okay, you guys, this is like, they're so nice to me. They're this deck is my favorite deck. They're very, very sweet, very nice, honest. But it's by this is her name. I don't want to say it wrong, so I'm just gonna let you guys see it. Janaea Telindrew. And she gives us this nice book that will like tell you the seeds and the cycles, and then the journey, and then the soul journey, and then the otherworldly goddesses afterwards that come out of the mound. So I wanted to share that with y'all.
yo, did you see
there's a
earlier
lot
when it said that I was showing that screenshot where it said that the island of Avalon, where the mother of oh gosh, I already forgot her name, Melusine, they took the daughters to Avalon, the island of Avalon, and that's the island of apples apparently. And I thought that was a fun little weave.
Mhm.
Or
So
like the
that's
Island of Youth, they call it that too.
Glass Island.
There's so many names for it, but also like, I mean,
Fun Apple connection from earlier though, you know?
yeah, it's an amazing thing.
Heck yeah. Avalonian apple magic.
Oh,
Fairy
and
apple
there's
magic.
one more book. It's called Apples of Gold. So I have this.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
How come you didn't bring that up earlier? Just sitting on treasure over there.
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna sit here and just take over, you know. But basically, the contents are love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and temperance. Those are the different, and then they're all
very
prayer.
interested in long suffering.
That's what we're going through, buddy. So
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's what it's about.
patterns.
To get to retrieve your sword from the island of Avalon is suffering. It's how to get through it the correct way.
I wanted to look into the island of Avalon and the Battle of Ogres. I heard about that, but I didn't read into it.
That sounds cool.
That sounds awesome.
Battle of Ogres at the island of Avalon. In the Glass Isle.
Ogham.
Yeah, the Ogham letters.
Og Bottoms.
That is the apple.
Oh, the soggy bottom boys
giant-
over at the
the
Og Bottoms
giant
with the ogres
is
and the
Og.
an ogre bistro. We can name and we can start an ogre themed bistro in which we have nice like super low lighting. You know,
right, we're talking about food.
We can serve
We're making a business right now. Okay.
There we go.
All right. Fresh baguette with a toad. I got some.
Wait, you
I
have
got
to lick a toad to walk in.
Oh, I love huge human-sized frogs that just wear Levi pants, and they try to fool you. They try to fool you, and they're like, "Give me a kiss here, you sweet boy," and I'm like, "No," and then they ribbit me up, and then they poop me out inside a golden egg, and then thus the next
Welcome
day
to
begins.
Roman, Stan.
Oh man.
All
that
right,
was
y'all.
awesome, Roman. That was freaking awesome.
Andy, tell the people where they can find you.
All right, check me out on Facebook at Indy Sage, Instagram at Raw Sentinel, or you can find my blog site at vibetribescribe.wordpress.com. Check me out.
Chee-hoo.
Mark, where can everybody find
Where?
You can find Tara and I on the Esoteric America podcast, along with Roman here.
Yeah.
We're going to be putting
Put
another.
out some new episodes, by the way.
We're
But,
working on it. Don't you
We
even
should do
trip,
Arkansas.
brother.
well, Roman's got all these businesses he's starting, so
I
it's hard
know.
to get him. It's hard to
The Ogre
schedule.
Bistro is
It's
about to start
hard to
consuming
lock that
me.
guy down.
He's got the apothecary. He's got the beef
Mhm.
shop. Who else? Who knows what
Yeah.
else he's got? So yeah,
Pure
I got
cannabis
the
hydrosol,
shameless
yeah.
plug. The whole episode it's there, so people know where to find me.
There we go.
My family thinks I'm crazy.com
Yes.
for all the audio listeners. Check the episode description. Roman will make sure to put my link in there.
Mhm.
Yes,
And
you
aside
are.
from Roman, Esoteric America is a really great show, and I love it. That's why I
Thank
bug you for
Chad
new
is
episodes.
Chad
'cause-
is the anchor on that show. Mark and I were just saying
Well,
how
we should
blessed
say,
we are to be
yeah, we're
working
gonna
with Chad.
change it up. We're gonna change it up. So we're gonna do
Yep.
one episode a week, hopefully, and we're gonna have one guest a month. But those 3 other episodes during the month, it's just gonna be the 4 of us: Tara, Roman, Chad, and I, and we're gonna do the research ourselves on the episode, whatever town we're looking at that particular week, and hopefully get a guest on that month to talk about the same town that we're researching. So yeah, Esoteric
There
America
you go.
is still coming. Don't be hasty. We'll come out with a new show soon.
Knowledge.
Excellent.
Are you doing every
Tara,
state?
any last words?
Sweet dreams.
Thank you. Thank you for popping in and reading that poem. Appreciate
Well,
it.
it's from a really interesting book that we found. Dreams. What is the title again? Can you read the title again? Where is the title?
World.
Yeah.
Dreams and the Invisible World in Colonial New England.
Yeah, it's Dreams and the Invisible World in Colonial New England. So a lot of what we talked about today, bro, from the Native American perspective, and especially how the European perspective met the Native American perspective in that colonial time period. Because a lot of what we remember about the Native Americans was filtered through them. Unfortunately, they weren't the most neutral party to do that. So yeah, this is a whole new look at that time period. It's a great book. She's been reading
love
it
that.
for a little bit now.
Similar to the codexes, we don't know a lot about the South Americans except for through the European codexes, and it's
Right,
just like
through the Jesuits. Yeah.
love how we just let that shit slide.
And
Anyways.
Morgan, thanks, babe, for coming on. You did fantastic.
Thanks.
So pop on all the time, anytime you want. Do you have anything going on that you want the people to know about? Come follow you, or not yet?
No, I'm trying to start a blog, but that's still in the making. Other than that, no. I love Slow Burn. It's like one of my favorite shows, so I'll probably pop on here more.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me.
Nice. Yeah.
Thank you for popping on.
I had a good time.
It.
Yeah, it's nice to put a face to you. I feel like I know you because I've listened to you guys for a long time. So it was nice to meet you.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you too and sharing some, being a lady.
Something that moves you, and that takes a lot.
Yeah.
Girl power is what she's.
Woman to woman, I see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apples to apples.
Apples to apples.
Stan Fox.
Yo,
you don't
yeah.
give a fox, do you?
Oh hell no! No, it's Stein Fox. I'm from the tribe of the Greyhorn Pagans, host of the Greyhorn Pagans podcast. You can find us on all the bigger podcasting platforms. You can find me under Stein Fox on Minds, Twitter, and YouTube, and of course Odyssey and Rumble. The tribe is mostly active on Telegram. Tribe of the Greyhorn Pagans, so t.me/Greyhorn Pagans. You can find all of us there. So yeah, it's been awesome.
You guys did an episode on the Fae recently, right?
Yeah, we did. I did a podcast with Faery, my fiance. She is connected to the Fae, and together with Child of Ash, who has been very active in the chat. We have done Little
Excellent.
People.
That was a good.
So a lot of the stuff that was being talked about, I recognized from the shows that we did.
Roman tagged me in a post on Telegram because somebody was saying that the Aries is the fire symbol. If you put the F to the Aries, you get fairies.
The moon is in Aries right now.
So thanks, Roman, for that one. And I forget who said it, who you saw it from, but thanks to them too.
Hey, subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you, my brother. All right,
Thanks,
man. Well,
Child of Ash.
yeah, bro, that's amazing, man. We've been getting like consistent, like couple new subs a day, which is cool. Which means people like to nerd out on a bunch of really awesome, weird things. So that's great, and we love everybody. I love everybody. I love all you guys. Thank you so much, and let's do it again next Sunday, eh?
Hey.
All right. Cheers.
All right.
Leprechauns,
Thanks,
man.
Fire Tribe, for listening. And if you're not down with that, wake up.
Nice.